All right, everybody, welcome to today's Mentorship Monday webinar. As people start trickling in, we'll start off with a little bit of housekeeping. As per usual, there is a Q&A that we like to have at the end. You could submit questions in the chat below in the Q&A section on Zoom. And you're definitely going to want to take advantage of having the ear of our special guest. So make sure to submit those questions throughout the webinar and we'll get to them at the end. Our special guest today, as you all know, is Jamail Larkins. His reputation precedes him. He needs no introductions, but I will introduce him anyway. He started flying at just 12 years old. Though his family could only afford a few hours per month, he was determined to stay involved and he started volunteering at airports, washing planes, taking out the trash, and jumping at any chance to fly whenever a pilot had an empty seat. He made history as one of the youngest American pilots to solo at just 14 years old, which he had to go to Canada to do, by the way. By 18, he became the national spokesperson for the Young Eagles Flights program, advocating for youth aviation education. And while attending Embry-Riddle University, he was named the FAA's first ambassador for aviation and space education. At just 21 years old, he launched an aircraft leasing business, further expanding his influence. His achievements earned him national recognition, including being named Inc. magazine's #1 entrepreneur under 25, a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, and one of Goldman Sachs 100 most innovative entrepreneurs. His contributions have been showcased at the Air and Space Smithsonian Museum, Wings Over the Rockies Museum, and the Franklin Institute. He was even invited to testify before United States Congress on the aviation industry's workforce needs. Now, Jamail has truly lived the challenges and opportunities of flight training and aviation firsthand. He's lived these barriers, he's overcome them, and he's built solutions around them to support those on the path behind him. Both Stratus and Jamail believe that financial support, mentorship, and community can help more students succeed. Today, our goal is to talk openly about these barriers that flight school students just like you face, and most importantly, to equip you with practical tools that make sure you succeed, finish strong, and step into your career. Without further ado, Jamail, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. As Emery just mentioned, my name is Jamail Larkins. I happen to wear a couple of different hats inside of the aviation industry. One being the founder of Aviation Start, which is now the largest resource available to hopefully help you find resources to be able to make any dream inside of the aviation industry become your reality. I also happen to travel all across the country with the Federal Aviation Administration as their ambassador for aviation and space education. And so basically, I try to talk to people, figure out what the reasons are that are stopping people from being able to have a career inside of the industry and hopefully help develop solutions for that. And then I also run an aircraft sales company. So I wear a lot of different hats, but definitely some of the most exciting things I get the chance to do is being able to talk and hopefully help people get their dreams started inside of the aviation industry. And I'm very thankful for Stratus Financial for giving me this opportunity to talk to students like you and also just aspiring aviation professionals. As you probably know just by being aware of this webinar, Stratus Financial is one of the largest private lenders for flight training that's out there. They work with over 375 flight schools all across the country. And through that, they also have developed a lot of institutional knowledge on what stops people from being able to get to be successful inside of the industry. And we're here today to hopefully share with you some of the things we've learned and hopefully some of the things that you can do that will prevent you from falling into the biggest portion of what happens for most people that want to start flying. So if we can go to the next slide. About 80% of all student pilots that start flight training are going to quit, unfortunately. And this is something that's been happening inside of our industry for decades. And there's a couple main reasons for that. And if you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk about the three primary ones today. The reasons why students typically quit, and you can talk to a lot of people who have variations of these different things, but they typically boil down to these three main reasons. The very first reason is money. That stops everybody from being able to get up inside of the sky. Unfortunately, as we know, even getting a private pilot's license today is typically going to be between $15,000 to $20,000 at the cheapest end. And to be able to become a professional pilot, you're looking at over a six-figure investment to be able to make that dream become a reality. The second major issue that stops a lot of people from being able to get involved inside the aviation industry is medical concerns, whether that's something that happened prior or something that you're currently experiencing. A lot of medical issues can stop you from being able to have a dream inside of the cockpit or even inside of the air traffic control tower. And the third one is all about the experience, getting inside of the cockpit, learning how to fly, and the various experiences that happen with that are some of the things that typically stop people from being able to get involved inside of the aviation industry. Anne Marie? However, there are solutions to these major problems that we encounter for the top three reasons. And for example, financial ones. If you come up with a real budget of what it's going to cost for you to be able to go from whatever your starting point is to where you want to ultimately end up, you can be able to come up with solutions to tackle that problem and that obstacle. So no matter what your financial background is, whether you come from a situation like myself, where I came from a quality average middle class family, but being able to fly at $300 an hour just wasn't in a deck of cards that was handed in life, to someone that might have a little bit more resources. No matter what the situation is, you can come up with a solution for it, whether it's through a couple different things that we'll be talking about in just a second. Next one. And the medical solutions, or go back to medical for me. Sorry about that.
Sorry,
And
that's on me.
just for example, on the medical solutions, there's a lot of issues, as I previously mentioned, that may stop you from being able to get a medical off the bat. But even if that is the case, there's a lot of different things that you can do to be able to solve that. For example, if you've taken ADHD medication in the past, or if you have anything that you think might stop you from being able to get an automatic approval for your medical, there's two major things that I really want to strongly recommend to you to do. The first one is contact one of the pilot advocacy groups out there, such as AOPA. I highly recommend AOPA's Pilot Information Center. You do have to become a member for it, but it's $89 a year, and you're going to be able to get a lot of resources from being a member of AOPA throughout your aviation journey. So it's a well worth the investment for doing it. But contacting them after you become a member for AOPA, contact the Pilot Information Center, and you can talk to actual medical experts that can kind of help either set you at ease to let you know that whatever issue that you might be going through is something that is not going to stop you, or if it is, they can give you advice on how to best be able to handle that solution. They're not going to recommend to you that you lie to the FAA, but they are going to help you figure out how to disclose the information properly to the FAA, for it won't stop you from being able to get your medical, or you have your best chances of being able to still get your medical issued ultimately. The second portion of what you can do is that you can go to your AME. And instead of asking for a actual medical examination for one of your first, second, or third class medical, just say that you want to go for a consultation. By going for a consultation, you're not actually going for your actual medical exam, and you can talk to your AME about whatever the issues are that you're thinking might stop you, and they can give you advice on that. The second big part about being able to do that is they'll at least give you an idea if your AME is going to be on your side and helping you be able to overcome the solutions, or if you might want to look at another AME to be able to get your medical before you apply for it. And then the third one is the experience. This is something that I really kind of harp on, because I think a lot of us fall victim when we start flight training of thinking that if you start off at whatever flight school that you're going to, or with whatever flight instructor that you have, that's the only option that you have. And it's simply not the case. If you think about this as an experience for any other industry that you could potentially be involved in, you would understand that if you're paying $5 or more a minute for every single minute of flight training, or you would expect to experience a top-notch white glove type service or experience in anything else. Unfortunately, in aviation, That's not the case. And despite us recognizing that we're paying this amount of money to be able to do it, we just allow ourselves not to experience the type of training that you want. So if the experience that you're having with your flight instructor isn't exactly what you want, there are alternatives. There's literally thousands of flight schools across the country, and there's even more flight instructors across the country that are desperate to get your business. And it's extremely recommended for you to be able to search for multiple flight schools before you even decide on one. But even after you decide on one, if you're having an issue, make the change, make a switch. It's extremely easy to do. And typically, you're not going to have too much of a setback in whatever flight training experience that you have. So it's not going to stop you or impede your progress from switching from one flight instructor to another for a long term solution. With that stated, you don't want to be doing that every other week, because then you will impede your progress. But if there's some kind of learning disconnect that you're having with either your flight instructor or your CFI, do make the change and don't stay stuck inside of the situation. Another thing is just speak up and talk to them and let them know whatever the situation might be and see if you might be able to change it. How about the next one? The biggest issue, as you could probably imagine, is typically money. And that's where this particular part or recommendation for how to overcome the obstacles involved in flight training kind of comes out. When you're doing your flight training, say that you get your private pilot's license and you're working on getting your instrument or your commercial rating. If you have to stop to be able to save up more money or work to be able to do it, it's going to frustrate you. And the more frustrations that you have in learning how to fly, the more likely that it is that you're going to fall into that 80% category of people that don't end up actually succeeding in getting involved inside of the aviation industry. So make sure the major three obstacles that we're discussing, that you come up with solutions for them before you ever step foot inside of the cockpit. By doing that, you're going to lessen the burden, lessen the stress, and you're going to be able to be more likely to be more successful inside of the aviation industry. And the biggest obstacle that we have out there is financing. So knowing whatever level of flight training that you're planning on going to, have a legitimate plan on how you're going to be able to pay for that before you get involved inside of the cockpit. It is extremely stressful, it's extremely painful, it's somewhat embarrassing when you have to stop midway through your training just because you don't have the funds to be able to do that. But fortunately, there's a lot of solutions to being able to do that. So next slide. I actually skipped over this part, but one of the things that I did want to mention before we go into some of the solutions is that if you do have to make a commitment, a financial investment, it's actually an extremely lucrative career. And in my opinion, it's worth it. No matter if you have to take out an expensive loan, no matter if you have to write literally hundreds and hundreds of scholarship applications or figure out a creative solution to being able to learn how to fly, the numbers justify themselves. Kit Darby, so you can go and look at this in more detail at kitdarby.com. But he did an analysis for about a 35-year average career pilot inside of all major airlines inside of the United States. Allegiant, which is the yellow one, is the lowest paying airline in the US. And with that, over a 35-year career, you're expected to earn just shy of $11 million. With Southwest being the number one carrier or the leading payer out there, it's just shy of $22 million. Imagine being able to make a $100,000 investment in over 35 years, turning that into just shy of $22 million. It's a worthwhile investment, in my opinion. All right. So to be able to do that, we have a couple of different recommendations that I would recommend to you be able to look at. One is cash. That's the best solution for anybody that's out there. If you have the capability of stroking a check for $100,000 to be able to go from zero flight time to being able to get hired by a flight school or a corporation to work inside of their flight department, that's obviously the best solution to be able to do. But the vast majority of people, including people like me, didn't have the capability of paying $100,000 off the rip to be able to do that. So another option that you can look at, and probably the most likely one for most people, is getting some type of loan available for you to be able to do some of your flight training. And that doesn't, my recommendation is get the largest amount of loan that you could possibly do, but then work to be able to subsidize or reduce that cost and not actually take the withdrawal from the loan capability. So make sure that you get the maximum loan that you can possibly get. Know that that's what you're capable of doing, but only withdraw the funds that you need to be able to actually do your training. That way you lower your interest rate and everything attached to that. But while you get that maximum amount approved, know that your plan is not to actually withdraw the full amount. What you want to be able to do is look at options available to be able to get involved inside the industry. And there's a couple really big ones that a lot of people don't necessarily think about. For example, you can subsidize a large portion of your flight training through scholarships and grants. Aviation Start, which we created earlier this year, we launched it in April, and it is the most comprehensive and largest resource that's available out there, completely for free, for you to be able to find options to help subsidize some of your flight training or get involved in a wide range of different other aviation careers inside of the aviation industry. Literally over $20 million a year worth of scholarships and grants are given out every single year. You can go to aviationstart.org, activate an account for it, which is completely for free. And then you can read through all of the various scholarships that are available for you out there. It's updated every single month, and you can find a scholarship or resource that's available for you. Something that I really want to talk about on this particular part is there's a lot of organizations like Women in Aviation, OBAP, a lot of state organizations, a lot of air shows. A lot of people are unfamiliar with the fact that there's over 300 air shows all across the country that happen every single year. But a vast majority of those air shows have some sort of scholarship program available to be able to help people get their start or be able to continue their training inside the aviation industry. Make sure that you research and go through databases like Aviation Start to identify scholarship opportunities that you can take advantage of. The second thing about that is that once you do identify scholarship opportunities, do not be scared. A lot of people are afraid to apply for scholarships, for example, at Women in Aviation. For me, I know initially off the bat, I would be scared to be able to apply for a scholarship at Women in Aviation, thinking that I'm not their target demographic. And that's simply not the case. Do not be afraid, because if you don't ask, you're definitely not going to receive it. But although those scholarships, a lot of those organizations do prefer to be able to give out scholarships to whatever their target demographic is to be able to help everybody and anybody get involved inside the industry, they are not exclusive for the vast majority of those scholarships. So pretty much anybody has eligibility to be able to apply for those. And then the other thing that I really want to recommend that people consider is look at working at an aviation company. There are a lot of aviation companies out there that either subsidize or actually pay for your entire flight training that's available. So that's one really big thing that I want to recommend, that you explore creative ways of being able to pay for your flight training inside of the cockpit. One great example is on the next slide. Working at companies like Boeing. Boeing actually provides for pretty much any employee at the company. You have the capability to pay for your flight training through Boeing's Learning Together program. So it's basically a continuing ed, but because Boeing is an aerospace aviation related company, that includes flight training for any of their company employees out there. So take advantage of these that happen at both large companies such as Boeing, all the way down to some small and medium-sized aviation companies. Great example of that is King Schools, based in San Diego. They help pay for some of their employees' flight training. AOPA, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, they also pay for all of their employees to be able to get their private pilot's license, for example. And these are just a few of the various companies that are out there that actually pay for a wide range of different opportunities for students to be able to get involved in, or for people to be able to get involved inside of the aviation industry. The next slide. One big thing that does happen for a lot of people when they're getting involved inside the aviation industry is you're going to experience some tough parts. You're going to have a few issues that you're going to encounter, whether that might be working with your flight instructor, not being able to land or nail crosswind landings, or being able to shoot an instrument approach. Whatever the case is, you're going to encounter problems. You might encounter financial problems. You might encounter going through the cyclical segment of the industry like we're experiencing right now, where it looks like hiring is over. All those things are going to be things that you're going to experience. But if you have a support crew, You're going to be able to get the knowledge and experience to be able to overcome any of those obstacles, whether they happen inside of the cockpit or outside. Next slide. A really good way of being able to do that is by just making friends at the airport. I know that this sounds really simple and easy, but it is extremely important. The more people that you're meeting, especially people that are going through what you're currently experiencing, will help you actually overcome and succeed and not fall into that 80% category, but fall into the 20% category of people that actually succeed. And this is not just my opinion on this. If you look at some of the statistics that have actually been done or surveys that have been done, there's about an 80. Let me give you an example. For example, EAA, when they give out scholarships to students with the Ray Foundation, they require that all of their awardees actually gain mentorship from their local EAA chapter. We already know that's a standard industry rate of people getting out or not being able to complete flight training is around an 80% washout rate. EA has about an 87% completion rate for all their students to actually get a scholarship through the EA Aviation Foundation. And part of that is because they require mentorship for you to be able to go through every step of your training. So please take my word on this. As simple as it may sound, of just making friends at your local airport, getting the chance to meet professional pilots, corporate pilots, airline pilots, networking with them, developing a real relationship with them will help turn you from being in the 80% washout rate and go into the 20% success rate. The other thing that you can do to be able to do that is join professional organizations. By joining OBAP, by joining Women in Aviation, by joining any NBAA's Yo Pros, all of the professional organizations that are out there, and becoming an active member, not just signing up and paying whatever your annual dues are, but actually getting involved inside of the industry and becoming a part of that organization, volunteering at whatever local chapter meetings that they might be having, their annual conventions and meetings, will not only give you the chance to meet people inside of the industry, but you'll develop a reputation in it. And that will come in extremely handy when you're looking for a job going down the road. When you can actually show that you've been involved in whatever organization that it is, and you developed a network inside of it. And once people recognize that you're now at the point that you're looking for employment, you will be surprised how many opportunities present themselves for you by doing this. I am a great example of this. I volunteered at EA Air Venture at Sun and Fun. And by doing that, I got the chance to meet local or pilots that were flying in. And that gave me opportunities to go up to Canada when I was 14 years old to be able to fly a powered airplane solo up there. Had I not been volunteering at the local youth activity center, that opportunity would have never presented itself. So whether you're talking about getting involved in youth programs like I was when I was 14 years old, or you're looking for the next job, make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity of getting involved in a wide range of professional organizations. There's definitely one that's out there that will interest you, but not only become a member of it, but become an active participant and volunteer inside of the organization. You will develop a reputation inside of it, and you will develop career opportunities by doing that. Next slide. The other big thing that we got to talk about is keeping flying fun. Unfortunately, if you go from zero flight time to going to 1,500 hours of flight time, and all of that is 100% training, you are going to get burned out. So it is extremely important that you keep your eye on the prize of making sure that you are progressing in your flight training career, but at the same time, remember what aviation is all about. Remember the fun that you have when you get inside of an airplane and you fly somewhere new for the very first time. When you see a smile on somebody's face that's never been up inside of an airplane before. When you get the chance to do something that you've never experienced inside of an airplane before, seeing a new sight that you've never seen. All of these things are critically important for keeping that enthusiasm up and make sure that you keep on flying when things get rough. One big advantage of this is that you not only get the opportunity to experience the fun parts of flying, but it also helps prepare you for real world operations. I have talked to so many students and so many people out there that tell me that when they first started flying and they go to a straight 141 school that is straight by the book, and all their flying is lesson plan, lesson plan, lesson plan. That is fantastic and that is great for teaching you aviation, but it does not actually give you the opportunity to learn in a real world. You know, you probably have heard the statement before that when you get your private pilot's license, it's a license to learn. And that is simply that's the case because when you go and you go to a airport that's not part of your flight school and you're going to go out there, say for instance you wanted to, for me I wanted to go out to California and rent an airplane, unless I have real world experience and flying into a new airport, flying maybe the same airplane type, but not that exact airplane before, there's going to be nuances that is probably going to scare me. So by going out there and flying and experiencing new things outside of the flight school environment, it will make you a better pilot. It will make you more confident, and it will also just make the aviation journey a lot better. Here's a couple other reasons why I really think that you need to be able to do things outside of just a straight flight school environment. One, as I mentioned already, it prevents burnout. Enjoying the fun aspects of aviation definitely will keep you motivated and interested inside the aviation industry, and it'll keep you focused on being able to continue your training for that long 1,500-hour journey. It is definitely a marathon and it's not a sprint, but you need to interject fun experiences inside of it to be able to keep you going forward with it. And then the second thing is it will give you real world confidence and experience where no matter what airport you're going into, no matter what weather situation that you're flying into, no matter what mechanical issue you might experience, you're going to have some experience or at least have the ability to draw off of what to do next versus just being straight by the book inside of a flight training or a flight school environment. Couple additional things that you can do just to make flying fun. As I mentioned, I'm not recommending that you take your eye off of the prize. I'm just recommending that you do some additional things to make sure that you stay motivated inside the aviation industry. One of the things that you can do is just rent an airplane with friends. Take them up flying, whether you want to go to a concert, whether you want to go fly somewhere for dinner, whether you want to go to an air show or fly to one of the aviation conferences or networking events that I was just discussing. Utilize the airplane to do something outside of just the next lesson inside of your lesson plan that you need to do. The second cool thing that aviation is really fortunate about is we have a lot of opportunities, whether you want to get a tailwheel endorsement, whether you want to start learning to fly aerobatics, which will also make you a safer and better pilot, whether you just want to get a fun rating like a seaplane rating or a glider rating. All of those different things are going to take you outside of just the realm of learning for becoming a professional pilot, but give you the opportunity to learn about aviation, experience flying in a different format, and also just doing something that's not going to keep that monotonous tone of just going from zero to hero flight training inside of it. So there's a lot of opportunities to do that. And there's a lot of organizations that are available for you to get involved with as well. For example, if you're interested in military way of life by any shape, form, or fashion, highly recommend that you check out the Civil Air Patrol. CAP is not just for young adults like 13 to 18. Yes, they do have their cadet program, which is how a lot of people get involved inside of the aviation industry. But there are a lot of other opportunities for adults. For example, they have their search and rescue operations. So if you have an interest in being able to actually be an asset and being involved inside of the industry as just the private pilot, you have the capability of being able to help out with search and rescue missions with the Civil Air Patrol. Um, Pilots and paws, there's no greater story that you can think of than being able to help dogs or animals be able to go from one location to another to be able to find a forever home. The Corporate Angel Network, once you have the capability of becoming a commercial pilot, you can participate and volunteer with the Corporate Angel Network. CAN has flown over 70,000 patients across the country in about 40 years and given them the chance to receive life-altering care. Being able to actually help save somebody's life as a pilot is a pretty cool opportunity. NAFI, OBAP, LPA, Women in Aviation. There's a lot of organizations and a lot of ways that you can get involved, whether it's inside the cockpit or participating. And once again, developing that network and developing the reputation that will give you the opportunity to advance your career. And then the next slide.
I think that is all for our prepared content for today. But like I said at the top of this call, just in case anyone was a latecomer and missed it, we do have a Q&A section down below, and we're happy to take this little bit of extra time and answer any questions that you may have. Again, we have the ear of Jamail Larkins today, so definitely take advantage of that if you can. I do see one question in the chat already, and it is, can you tell us more about how you got into aerobatic flying and why you enjoy it?
I actually started aerobatic training, I guess, when I became the national spokesman for the Young Eagles program. I got a chance to meet a lot of pilots through that role, and I met a lot of airshow performers. I got really interested in what they were doing when I went to air shows, and I got the chance to see people perform aerobatics close to the ground in some really cool airplanes. And so I knew that I wanted to get involved in it. I wasn't quite sure how. I got the chance to take really my very first real aerobatic lesson when I was 16 years old down in St. Augustine, Florida, in an Extra 300L, and that sealed the deal for me. So I knew that I wanted to be able to do that, but it's extremely expensive to be able to do that. Typically, you're not talking about $300 an hour. You're typically talking between $500 to $600 an hour at a minimum for one single hour of aerobatic training. And being 17, I didn't really have the cash to be able to do that. So I continued to save up some money. I purchased my own airplane actually when I was 18 years old, but instead of getting a 172 or something like that, I bought a Christian Eagle 2, a high performance aerobatic biplane. I started training in that. And then about, let's see, August of my 18th year, I got certified to fly air shows. And then about a month later, I actually got the chance to open up at my very first professional air show.
Wow, incredible. And I guess along the same lines, this next question is, with limited finances, are there other budget-friendly ways to have fun in aviation? Do you have any recommendations on affordable ways?
Absolutely. Didn't want to bore you with all the various options out there, but another really good way is that a lot of people take advantage of is joining a flying club. Typically speaking, if you get involved inside of a flying club, you're going to pay between 25 to 30% per hour less than if you go to a straight flight school. So, although you can't typically join a flying club for your private pilot's license, once you do get your private pilot's license, you do have the capability of maybe doing your instrument or commercial training, depending on what flying club that you're in. And you're going to save up to 30% on average of every single hour. So if you think about that, say you spent 15 to 20 grand on your private pilot's license, but then you still have approximately 80,000 more to go. You're going to save up to $24,000 on that if you did a substantial portion of your flying through a flying club. The second thing is, as we've already discussed, get that those scholarship applications in. There are literally millions and millions and millions of dollars of scholarships that are available for people to take advantage of if you have the willingness to just write the applications, research them, and actually fill them out properly, i.e., submit them before the deadline, the actual deadline of the applications out there. And then there's a couple other additional things that you can do. One, before every single lesson that you go to, make sure that you're prepared for that actual lesson. And what I mean by that is whether it's ground school that you need to know before you ever go into it, whether it's chair flying, maneuvers that you need to do, there's a wide range of different things that you should be doing before you ever set foot inside of the cockpit. And simple things like reading the book beforehand, actually practicing the maneuvers inside of your mind before you get inside of the airplane can help reduce it. Additional things that you can do is by flying frequently. You don't want to fly once a week or once every 2 weeks. Part of the reason why I say get your financing set up in advance is because the quicker that you can fly, the cheaper it's actually going to be for you to be able to get your flight training completed. For example, if you can fly 2 to 3 times a week, the amount of hours that you're probably going to do to be able to get completed to your next stage of training is going to be substantially less than if you're only flying 1 hour every week or every other week. So it's really important to figure out your entire plan, figure out how you're going to be able to pay for it, figure out the knowledge portion of it before you ever get started inside of the cockpit, and then make sure that you enjoy the experience while you're doing it. If you take those few examples and suggestions on stuff, you'll save a ton of money inside of the cockpit, you'll reduce your stress while you're doing it, and you'll enjoy the experience so much more.
Absolutely. And as far as this next question, I think you might have already touched on this a little bit, but do you have any recommendations on any open scholarships off the top of your head and any recommendations for those people applying? Any recommendations for that application process?
So the biggest thing there's just this month I know that there's been over $1.7 million worth of scholarships that just became eligible in the month of September. So there's quite a few, too many to name, but to give you a few examples, Women in Aviation is available, OBAP is available, and there's a ton of individual scholarships that are available as well. There's going to be a ton that open up next month. AOPA opens up their portal, which is roughly about $2 million that they give out. EAA is in the same boat. NBAA will be finalizing theirs next month for a few of those. So there's a lot of scholarships that are open all throughout the year. Pretty much any portion of the year, there's going to be some scholarships available. I do recommend that you read through all the lists and see what scholarships you want and then find out their eligibility. And each one of them has different eligibility requirements for it. So it's important to look through it, but you can at least find what options exist and then figure out what time frame you're eligible for and apply for the right ones. In addition to that portion, though, I do want to say there's a few things that you can do to make yourself stand out when you are applying for these scholarships. One is make sure that you're authentic. When you're applying for these scholarships, do not do a chat GPT. Do not have your parents write the essay for you. Do not have your mentor do it. It is important that it is a first account experience of what the scholarship's going to do and how it's going to impact your life and what you want to do, how you're going to give back, how you're going to be involved inside the aviation community. The second big thing that I want to do or tell you that you can do is when you want to apply for a scholarship, whether it's an EAA scholarship, an NBAA scholarship, OBAP, Women in Aviation, or one from the local air show in your community, be active inside of that organization before you apply for the scholarship. So you want to build up that name and that reputation before you ever fill out the first letter on your application form. That's critically important because the scholarship committee is probably going to be aware of anything that you're doing involved inside of the industry already. And then secondly, they're going to know what you're doing to actually make an impact. So they're going to know that if they give you the financial reward to be able to make your dream come true, you're going to give back in a positive way to the industry and help be positive overall for it. So make sure that you're active inside of the organization that you're applying for. Make sure that you're authentic and you write it. Also get the best person possible. If it requires a letter of recommendation, don't get the biggest name that you know or someone that you might have met one time in your entire life. Get someone who actually knows you that can write well and describe who you are as a person, how dedicated that you are for whatever goals and dreams that you may have, and how hard you work to be able to make them become your reality, how you're not going to give up, how you've overcome adversity in the past. They can kind of give a solid overview of who you are as a person, why this means so much to you, and how you're going to be able to utilize it. Having someone that can describe that in a positive and eloquent way about who you are and what you're going to do is far more impactful than having someone that you might have met one time that does not know you very well that writes a generic letter of recommendation for you. Make sure that you read the requirements of the scholarships thoroughly and you do everything that's required of it. It's really cool. A lot of scholarships these days, just like the one that Stratus Financial did earlier this summer for $10,000, You don't have to write an essay for it. All you had to do is do a social media posting on it. Really cool, easy way for you to be able to win $10,000 to be able to go to your flight training. So there's some really unique and cool scholarships that are coming out there now just for people to get involved inside the aviation industry. Just make sure that you read the requirements and do exactly what's required. We posted a couple of things about the Stratus Financial Scholarship, and I cannot tell you how many people ask me, how do I apply and where do I submit my application to? And it's like, did you not even see the post that said all you had to do is make a video describing yourself and how this would impact you, and you could win $10,000? But even for someone being able to win $10,000 in what will probably take less than 10 minutes to be able to actually do, how few people will even take the time and dedication just to go through that simple step kind of sometimes astonishes me. But then on the other hand, you see some people that do what I did and have done a lot more. I've heard some really incredible stories of students going through to the ends of the world to be able to make their dreams in aviation happen. And when I hear those stories, they kind of outweigh the ones that won't be willing to do what it takes just to fill out an application. So what I want to recommend to you guys is make sure that you don't have to go to the ends of the world to be able to do something. You don't have to go to a foreign country to be able to get your pilot's license like I did. They're not necessarily looking for things like that, but they are looking for who you are as a person and how that resource is going to benefit you and how it's going to impact your life and how you're going to impact the aviation industry afterwards.
Absolutely. Really great advice there for all students looking to apply for scholarships. We've got two more questions here. If anyone else would like to submit questions, we'll try to get to them after the webinar via email if we can. But let's finish off with these last two. This one is a little specific. It says, can a student from the U.S. Virgin Islands apply for scholarships as well, or does it only apply to residents from the mainland U.S.?
So that is a good question, and it's a little bit of a complicated answer. The vast majority of aviation happens inside the United States worldwide. So, like over 50% of all aviation activities happens in the United States of America. Because of that, a large portion of resources are going to be dedicated to the aviation development and growth inside of the aviation industry inside the United States. Some scholarships, some loans are available for people if they do their training inside the United States, but they aren't required to be a US citizen. You would be eligible for some of those. Some scholarships are available for international students, and we even have those listed on aviationstart.org. Unfortunately, those are going to be in a limited supply compared to some of the scholarships, as well as financial resources such as loans that are going to be available to anyone that is actually a US citizen or doing their training inside the United States. So, yes, there are resources available. They're going to be less than what's going to be available for students here inside the United States. But please go through and look at the international scholarship opportunities and take advantage of those.
Absolutely great advice there. And for our final question before we wrap up, it's a question that crossed my mind earlier today as you were talking about it. What's it like to own your first aircraft? And do you have any tips on buying one for starters?
The biggest tip that I recommend to anybody is get a solid pre-buy. That is number one. Whether it is a new airplane or a used airplane. I have bought new and used airplanes over the years, and I can tell you, you always get a thorough pre-buy inspection done on your airplane. On a new airplane, it's more of just making sure everything's done properly and you do the actual delivery flight before you take acceptance of it. But on a used airplane, it is critically important to do a solid pre-buy by a reputable shop to identify anything, because although the airplane may look well, there could be a hornet's nest underneath of it and underneath the cowling that could cause a lot of problems for you. So pre-buy inspections, number one, it's kind of like a prenup, but it's a requirement in my opinion. The second thing that I would say on that is it was awesome. I was a senior in high school and I owned my very first airplane, and not only just an airplane, but an airplane I could turn upside down in.
Wow.
So dates my senior year of high school were pretty cool. But but it was a lot of fun to say the least.
Awesome. What a great note to end on. I love it. We'll wrap up there. As a final note, make sure to stay connected. Follow obviously Stratus Financial on all social media platforms, and also make sure to stay connected with Jamal here on Instagram. Which is just Jamail Larkins. And of course, check out aviationstart.org and apply for those scholarships that we were talking about earlier. Jamal, any final thoughts?
That is it. I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you got something from it. If you had any questions, I am extremely active on social media. Literally send me a DM on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Follow us there. But most importantly, go to aviationstart.org, sign up for the scholarship resource, find a scholarship that's available for you because there's over $20 million there. It'll help subsidize your ability to get involved inside the aviation industry. But if you need additional help, there's nobody better than Stratus Financial for you to be able to get some loans to be able to actually make your dream become a reality. Once again, make sure that you get your entire plan set up before your very first hour inside the cockpit.
Thank you so much, Jamal. Thank you so much for being here and being so insightful on today's session. And with that, I'll let you go.
All
We'll be
right.
talking to you soon.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.